Carrie from Classic Cottage Art and Antiques in Bowling Green, Virginia. Tonight I thought I would recycle is not the right word, upcycle some old lamps. I have some ugly lamps. I mean really, really ugly lamps. This is one of them. Get in the camera. I've already started it, but if you can see, it was this ugly brass color. It's got a pretty pattern to it, but it's just ugly. Here's another one. I like to pick up brass lamps, and it's just kind of ugly. So we're going to do something with that one. This one is not too bad. I'll get back here so you can see. It's not too bad, but if you look at the base, it's just bleh. So we're going to do something with that. We're going to leave the glass part just fine, but we're going to do the base of it. Let me show you one I've done in the past. This has been a couple of years ago. Whoops, come back here. This was an ugly lamp, but it's now beautiful. This was a terrible brass color. This was brown or something, but it's been updated with Dixie Belle paint. Sorry, the cord's in the way. But let's see what we got going on. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to clean your piece. I'm big on cleaning your pieces. So this one in particular needed a really good vacuuming. Oops, my face. Needed a really good vacuuming, and I did that. And then I took white lightning cleaner, but I took it on one of these brass brushes, and because it had all of this detail in here, I wanted to get it out. And then I also took white lightning on some, I think it was like 000 steel wool, which shined it up pretty good. If you like it shiny, that's great. I didn't want that color. And then because it's metal, good old slick stick. So slick stick is going to help you when you have something slick like metal. Particularly this metal here on the base of this is really slick, even though I cleaned it. So let me show you real quick what I did. One thing you're going to have to remember is decide early on if you're going to have it rewired. If you can do it yourself, great. I usually get my husband to do it. But if you're going to have it rewired, you might want to have it rewired before you paint it. So I'm going to have to let it sit now because he'll get rough with it when he rewires this for me, and he'll scratch my paint because it won't be cured. But because I'm going to rewire it, I'm going to take my wire cutters, and I'm just going to cut it, get it out the way. But take it out of my way. Let me get it under here. Because when you get a lamp at the Goodwill or somewhere like that, be sure, and that one's not going to cut, be sure and check the wiring. Wiring can be redone, no big deal. If you can't do it, you don't have a handy husband or somebody that can do it for you, or a dad or something, go ahead and take it to me. Sometimes local hardware stores in small towns have a service for that, or there may be a lamp shop near you. But anyhow, I've taken the cord out, and I need to take this part out as well. This is the harp that's going to be for the shade later. This is the socket that is in bad shape. Trash can. Save all these little things though, these little parts here. They're useful later on when they get it put back together. So we'll set that one aside for a minute. I'm going to show you this one. I hope I can get it to show you good enough. This one, it's nasty on the bottom. It looks like it might even be molded. So I'm going to take, might just pull out, oh yeah, that's just going to pull out. And you can, if it's not in bad shape, just, you know, save it for later. Mine's in bad shape, so I'm going to throw. So this one here, if you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's got a lot of grungy stuff on here, and I'm going to take the steel wool. I hope it doesn't kill your ears. That would be terrible. But I'm going to take my white lightning, and I'm going to spray it on my steel wool. But I'm just taking, and you'll see this is really, really dinged up. But one thing, this lamp, the cord is perfectly fine. There's no cracks in it or anything. The one I took off a while ago, just a few minutes ago, this is definitely indicative that a cord needs to be redone. So more trash. But this one I'm going to leave the cord in it, but there's a bunch of stuff, I don't know if you can see up underneath of there. So I'm going to have to take the lamp apart. Now, it may or may not come apart for me today, right now. The other one did. So I'm going to take my pliers, and I'm not as strong as I used to be, but let's see. And the other, I should have loosened this earlier. But you get the idea. You unscrew this little screw right here. I'm not going to be able to do it on camera for you, but you unscrew this little screw right here, which will be attached up here as well. This is one rod that runs all the way through your lamp. But you're going to want to take this off and clean up underneath of there as well, because you're going to paint under there too. But basically that's all you do. You're just going to do that with the steel wool, and then you're going to of course come back with your plain water and rinse it. And I've done that to all my lamps tonight. Let's put this one aside. And I also applied Slick Stick. So let's see. Woo. This little guy's heavy. So if you're going to paint a lamp that has the cord still in good shape, be sure and tape your cord unless you want paint all over your cord to show. So you're going to tape it here where it comes out of the lamp, and you're going to tape it where it goes down into the hole, just to make sure. Now, I got Slick Stick on that. I'll have to scrape that off later. Okay, so what I've done for this one is I put a coat of Slick Stick on. I can't get the camera. There we go. Slick Stick on it. And then I have put a coat of the color Driftwood, Dixie Belle Paint Driftwood. So the reason I did that, because I decided I'm going to use the Dixie Belle Paint Moonshine Metallics. I can hold it so you can see. Can you see the difference? This is just the duller finish is actually just the Slick Stick with Driftwood on it, and the bottom has I think 2 coats of the Moonshine Metallics and Silver Bullet. But isn't that a pretty finish? So when I put my lamp, of course I'll take the tape off before I do this, but when I put my lamp back together, it now has a shiny base, if you can see that or not, instead of a really beat up and grungy messed up base, which is what I was going for. If you haven't used the Moonshine Metallics, you really should. I'm not a blingy person, but I'm really liking this Moonshine Metallics. It comes in a 16-ounce jar, and it's super easy to use. Ooh, if I don't spill it, super easy to use. You can use it with a little bit of a damp brush, and just make sure you shake it up real well. And it's so simple, just be going smooth, very smooth. I don't know if you can see that because I can't see. But very smooth strokes. And just like that, you've got a new lamp base. The good thing about using the Moonshine Metallics on this is you do not have to put a sealer on it. Moonshine Metallic paint does not require a sealer. You can see this. But that is pretty much it. That's one. So we've got that, and it's not dry, of course, but it goes from ugly this to this. And when I can't put it back together, obviously, because it isn't dry. But that is one way to fix an ugly lamp, or to upcycle an ugly lamp. Another way is to, let me put this down here so I can let it dry. Keep in mind, as with all the Dixie Belle products, it's going to take about 30 days to cure, but lamps don't get that much use anyway, so I mean, as far as beating around, I wouldn't think. So let's move on to this guy. This one, I didn't finish cleaning it because I thought, well, I was going to show you, but you kind of get the gist of cleaning, especially with the details like this. I take the brush and I just use it with White Lightning after I vacuumed it, and then clean it and then rinse it with water, plain water, because you want to get that residue off from the Dixie Belle White Lightning. And you can also put White Lightning on real fine steel wool and do that too. Now this actually got it kind of shiny for me, but it had a lot of places I didn't really care for, so I'm going to paint it. I have this thing, I want to paint everything in my house now. How about you? So again, I use Dixie Belle Slick Stick because this is a slick surface, and I will clean the whole thing later. but I was trying to not keep you all night. Again, I took the cord out because it needed to be redone, and I put a coat of Slick Stick on it. But I also put a coat of Dixie Belle Paint Pink Champagne. It's a very sheer pink, and I let that dry. And that was pretty by itself, but look at all the cool details. Can you see? Yeah, there you go. All the cool details in this lamp. So, in my mind, this needs to have a little frilly thing because it's got all these details. But then I took the color Tea Rose, and I do have that brush. I took the color Tea Rose, and the brush is not very wet at all. And I just dry brushed. This one's not wet at all. I just dry brushed, and look what happened. All those details popped. You could do it the other way too. You could paint the darker color first, or you could, and then paint, dry brush the lighter color over top, and you still get the details. I kind of like this way. So I'm also going to take on this particular project, because I want those details to pop just a little bit more. This is Dixie Belle's Paint Black Glaze. This is Black Glaze. I keep them in my little salad dressing bottle things here. First thing you're going to notice about this is it looks blue when it comes out of the jar. If you get Black Glaze, it is going to dry black for you. And then I'm going to take a brush. Let's do this with a stencil brush. Any kind of brush will do. And I'm going to load it fairly generously. And I have not clear coated this. I probably should have clear coated this. But honestly, it just crossed my mind that I was going to do this. Get up here so you can see it. And then I'm going to do this, and you're going to think I'm absolutely nuts. Oh, there you go. You're going to think I'm nuts. But what's going to happen is I'm going to get my paper towel fairly damp here so I can get the glaze off of the top. And I'm going to wipe it back. And you're going to see the glaze sit down in the cracks and crevices. If I wanted more, I could add more. And I'll do this to the whole lamp. Let's put some more on there because let's do another section. And I'm trying to get it down in those little recesses there so that they pop when it dries. And my paper towel is damp. And might be hard to see, but when I get finished, there you go. Can you see that it's actually it's going to pick up the details more? And this one, because I kind of want a shiny finish on it, I'll probably put a satin clear coat on this once it's all finished. So this has just got some really cool details that I wanted to pick up with the dry brushing of the darker color, but then I wanted to pick it up even more with the glaze down in the crevices. That's a cool process. And you can do that on any piece of furniture as well. So that'll transform that ugly lamp. Get some of this out of your way here. Now this one, I'm going to hold this up a little bit. This one had some really pretty, what do you call it? Design in it, I guess. Lines in it. It's pretty, but I'm just not real thrilled with that brass. This is the original. And I decided to go ahead and do most of this so you would get at least sort of a finished project. But it's this kind of, when I cleaned it up, it looked nicer than before I cleaned it up. But I decided it needed something else, and I couldn't figure out what color to paint it. First of all, again, I put Slick Stick on it because it's metal, and I want to make sure that the paint sticks to the metal. So there's my coat of Slick Stick. Okay, but then I decided to paint it in Bunker Hill Blue. Now, this might not be a color you like, but I looked online and it just seems to be that blue lamps are trending right now. Who knew? But anyway, this is 2 coats of Bunker Hill Blue, and really it is so simple. This one's easy to paint because of the lines in it. But basically, let me go over here. Now this, I don't know if you can tell. Down a little bit. But this is 1 coat of Slick Stick. Bunker Hill Blue. And this is 2 coats. So this is going to need 2 coats, especially over this light color Slick. So basically this is, this is a very smooth brush. Chip brush probably wouldn't be the best option for this one, simply because it's going to leave brush strokes more than you might want in this project. So basically it's going to be, now this is another one that's going to be, I didn't tape my cord because I'm going to have my husband redo it, but if I take it all apart, it'll disassemble because it's in like 3 different parts here. All right, and that's basically all there is to that. Go down here and do the base. On the base, you can definitely tell the difference in 1 and 2 coats. So this is coat number 2 here. And you'll notice there's a lot of different recesses in here that we can do some stuff with too. And I came up with a cool thing to do with that as well. Of course, Dixie Belle Paint. Also, when I was painting this one, I was doing it in kind of a hurry, so I probably would go back and paint underneath of here, just because when you sit it on the table, it's probably going to show. But, so what we can do with this one, again with the, I'm into the bling this week for some reason. Dixie Belle has, you can use a Moonshine Metallic, or Dixie Belle has this really cool glaze. It's called Sapphire Pearl Glaze. It's like a blue color. And what I did with this one is the coolest thing. And it may not show up very well on camera, but what it does is, and you don't need a lot. That's the cool part about this. You don't need a lot. And this you wouldn't wipe back. It's not like the other glaze you wouldn't wipe back. Whoops, that's wet. No. I put it, there we go. I put it, if I can see it backwards and do it, right in the little crevices. I have to stand up to do this one so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Right in the little crevices. And what I might do is wipe it off the edges here. It doesn't show up as much on here. Kind of went over where I wanted it to go. But it's got like a very pretty blue shimmer. But down here, can you see where I've done it here earlier? It turns out really pretty. So basically, I'm just doing this. And it just adds that little bit of something. It picks up the details there. So pretty. You could actually take and go over the whole thing with this. Might even go here. And that's just to give it a different look. It's not that ugly brass, dark, pitted up looking brass that it was. Now when you're going to do this, you're going to do it with kind of soft, even strokes. Because then what I might do after that, if you've noticed, I've taken the Dixie Belle Moonshine Metallics in Gold Digger and accented this trim right here. And I've also, it looks really pretty, I think, over this blue. But as I'm doing this, I just had this other cool thought. I could have easily taken the Moonshine Metallics and gone in these crevices as well. Oops. But I thought this little blue Sapphire Pearl glaze is really, really pretty, I think. If you can see that. And the cool thing about this Moonshine Metallic paint is it goes on super quick. I mean, you saw that. It actually, I think, works better, however, if you put it over another color of paint. When you do it on its own, it leaves it kind of sheer. This is a vase I did in the Silver Bullet. Oops, let me get it shaded. And it's just over slick stick, and I don't like it as well. It's pretty. It's just not as full coverage as when I did it over the driftwood on the base of that lamp. So this is a case you might want to use just a slightly damp brush for this, just very ever so slightly, I should say, to go around. Oops, I got a little bit carried away with that one. Can y'all see what I'm doing? And it'll dry a little bit darker. And if you want to go back and touch up these little areas here, you could with a tiny brush. Oops, that's probably only got one coat of. But just like that, I have updated a really ugly lamp. Now up here on the top, after I put my fingers in the paint, up here on the top, you can see I put a coat of lemonade color on here before I put the paint on. If you can see that or not. And this is one coat of the Gold Digger Moonshine Metallic paint. And I'm going to go ahead and put a second coat, which will give it a little more richness. The Moonshine Metallics do tend to have a little bit more of a sheer property to them. And so sometimes they will take a few more coats, which is also why it's a good reason to put a similar color paint underneath. Or I kind of like it over that blue. What do y'all think? But that's kind of cool. Oh, there you go. So I don't know if y'all can see that. That's a little bit bright there, maybe. I don't know. But that turns out really pretty. Now, when you're painting, don't forget to paint up here, unless you're going to have whoever rewires it change this part out. This was kind of rusty, crusty. Oops, right there. And so I didn't like that color to go with the rest of my updating of my lamp, so I decided to paint it. So, and you know, paint everywhere you think it's going to show that the lampshade's not going to cover. And then what we can do once this dries, anywhere there's the Moonshine Metallic, you won't need any kind of a sealer. Now, Dixie Belle doesn't require a sealer at all anyway, so you may choose not to put a sealer on it. But, and this may not be your color choices, but that's the cool thing about painting things. You can paint them any color that you want to, because you're the designer in that case, right? But you can take an ugly lamp that you found at a thrift store, at the Goodwill, in your basement, like this one was in my basement, and you can transform it into something pretty, match your home. If you come across a lamp that has an ugly shade on it, the ugly one, here it is. This one's kind of, this, you can paint lampshades too. That's the cool part about it. This one actually doesn't fit any of the ones I had tonight, but you can take Dixie Belle paint. You can actually paint fabric with Dixie Belle paint. So, let's get that out of the way. This is probably not the most, I don't know if you see the pleats in this. This might take a little bit more time to paint than it would. It might be a little harder to paint, I should say. Well, hey, guess what? All my lampshades have pleats in them tonight. But if you had one that's just a plain fabric, it'd be a lot easier to paint. I may or may not decide to do this. As a matter of fact, what I might do, this is just like ribbon. What I would do on this one is I might just cut it off. Oh, wait, I didn't bring my scissors. But I would probably just cut this off and then maybe paint the paper shade. The cool thing about this, though, too, is that you can actually stencil on lampshades. I've done that in the past, or you can do rubber stamps on. Just be careful if you're going to do something like decoupage or something on a lampshade. Just be sure that you don't use a really high watt bulb in it, because you could burn your house down. You don't want to do that, right? So pretty much it's so simple to just make something kind of ugly, or not as pretty as it could be, into something pretty that goes with your house, right? So that's pretty much all I have tonight. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you get a chance, if you go and subscribe, that'd be wonderful, and I'd really appreciate it.